What up, Long Beach? Welcome back to the show for your top Long Beach sports stories here at the downtown offices of the Long Beach Post.
I'm Mike, he's JJ, we're the 562.org, and this week on the show, we're talking about girls basketball.
That's right, after the dust has settled after a long high school basketball season, we've still got two girls hoop teams kicking in the CIF playoffs.
Long Beach Poly and Wilson both in huge games on Wednesday night. Poly in that open division going up against Corona Centennial. Wilson in the quarterfinals of the Division III playoffs. Two really good teams seeded very highly with completely different styles, JJ.
Indeed. Obviously, Long Beach Poly girls basketball has built on defense with Carl Buggs, the head coach, leading the way. But for Wilson, they want to score a lot and they want to score fast.
They've got Ashley Hawkins and Samaya Terry, a couple of real quick game changers. Ashley Hawkins kind of led that team throughout the year, but Samaya Terry comes out and scores 30 points in the second round of the playoffs. Actually scored as many points as Belle Gardens, Wilson's opponent, in a huge breakout night for her. She signed a scholarship to Cal State Monterey Bay and is also a standout volleyball player, one of our favorite kids in the city this year for sure. Over on the Poly side, they've got game-changing players all over the place. Moore League Player of the Year was Lily Buggs, who comes out and only scores 4 points in their first playoff game. Then Nala Williams, the sophomore, comes off the bench and scores 20 points. And meanwhile, Kalea Buggs, who's probably the most versatile player in the city, comes back and opens up all those defensive options for them. They held Rosary to just 5 points in the second quarter of their first open division game.
You can go to the 562.org right now and see coverage from both of those games. Sticking on the hard court, we're going to go over to Long Beach State, where we still don't know. We've got no idea whether or not the Long Beach State men's or women's team has a chance to make a run in the upcoming Big West Conference tournament. And the reason why we don't know is because they've beaten the best, they've lost to the best, they've beaten the worst, and they've also lost to the worst.
Yeah, in some cases, they've lost by 17 points to the worst, JJ. The Long Beach State men's basketball team finds itself in the really odd position of being one loss out of last place and missing the Big West tournament, and one loss out of second place. They've got 6 losses. The last place team has 7. The second place team has 5. That's how muddled up the Big West has been this year.
Well, they were in the basement last week until 2 defensive performances delivered 2 wins to get them out of there and into the running. We've got to shout out a couple of players. How about Michael Carter III? He goes from being suspended a few weeks ago, gets back on the team and in the good graces of head coach Dan Munson, and then he hits a game-winning jumper in overtime to beat UC Riverside last week in Walter Pyramid, 65-63. The Beach scored 23 points off of the 24 turnovers in that one because they're using defense to win these games. And I also got to shout out Josh Morgan, who has now set the single season record for blocked shots at Long Beach State, and that's pretty impressive coming from a freshman.
Absolutely. On the women's side, it's been kind of the same story. They're all about defense. The way they play defense is with a really active zone. They match up on the perimeter, but they're just really well settled into this system after running it for a couple of years. They're currently at 3rd place in the Big West at 6-5, but they're kind of the same thing as the men's team. They've beaten the best teams and they've lost to the worst teams in the conference, so it's really just going to be about trying to get a decent seeding for the Big West tournament. Unlike the men's team, they do more or less have a lock on getting into that. They basically have to lose out to miss the tournament, so we know they're going to be in the Big West tournament that'll be held in the Pyramid and at the Honda Center. We're just trying to see where they're going to be seated.
We've talked a lot about the St. Anthony boys basketball team, and for good reasons. They're in the top division. But we also got to shout out the St. Anthony boys soccer team down in Division 7, who made some history despite adversity this season. Their head coach, Ruben Gonzalez, took over the program a month ago because their former head coach left the program. What do? They just went on the best playoff run in program history and reached their first quarterfinal ever. I mean, this could also be the last time we see a Long Beach team at home playing a very good team on that natural surface, because St. Anthony is trying to raise some money right now to turn Clark Field into field turf. And if we're being honest, we talked about this on the podcast this week, it's been field turf that's helped take good Long Beach soccer and turned it into great Long Beach soccer.
Speaking of great Long Beach soccer, let's talk about our play of the week. This was a Long Beach Poly boys soccer home playoff game in Division 2 against Redondo Union, and wow.
Okay, first you got to start with the Samba by Henry Chirinos on the outside. I mean, he absolutely shook that defender. And then the connection between Alan Avila and Miguel Arroyo, the 1-2 without even really thinking about it. And how about Arroyo's finish through contact, fade away, Jordan, perfect, and one. That is just an incredible goal from the Jackrabbits to really cap an incredible season for them.
This is not the only coverage we're doing for the Long Beach Post. Be sure to check out What Up Long Beach, as well as our weekly roundups of the top high school and college stories in the city. And for coverage of everything else Long Beach sports, visit the562.org.